We are on page 139. We've already moved up to activity 3 in this project. We're going to be creating a text animation now. We got the ball taken care of. So now we're going to add some text, change the text attributes, create navigational buttons, which is really cool, and add action, like we're going to add some scripting or Java code to these buttons. Using what we've created so far, we're going to create and add some text animation. We're on step-by-step 4.18, creating animated text. We have the ball layer. Just so we don't mess anything up with this ball, since we got it exactly the way we want it, let's go ahead and, you see the little lock right there under layer 1? I want you to click right there, and we're going to lock layer 1. So that way, a lot of times when we start adding more layers, you don't want to accidentally be in the wrong layer and accidentally mess up what you've already done. So let's lock that layer so we prevent ourselves from doing any damage to what we've done so far. So we've got this locked to prevent ourselves from doing any damage. We are going to be on number 2 on page 139. To create a new layer, you can do it 2 ways. You can go insert timeline layer, or my preferred way is just go to the bottom of the layer right here where it says new layer and just click the new layer button. Has everybody got the second layer? Now double click the title of layer 2 and we are going to type Spanish. Be sure you spell it and capitalize the S. Capital S, lowercase p-a-n-i-s-h. As shown in figure 4.18 on page 139. We changed this layer to Spanish. It's always good practice to name your layers so you know what's in that layer. Because if you remember when I said earlier, when you're animating multiple things, it's good to keep each individual thing animating in its own layer. Otherwise, they'll blend together. On the Spanish layer in the timeline, I want you to click in frame 75. And we're going to insert a keyframe. So we're going to click in frame 75 and press F6. What I want to show you is, you notice that keyframe looks different from the keyframe below it. It's got an empty circle. That means we haven't put anything in it. And notice there's no color in the Spanish layer at all. That means there's nothing on the stage in this layer yet. Make sure you got frame 75 clicked in the Spanish layer. And we're going to click on the text tool in the toolbar. That's the big T. You can press T on your keyboard to select it. In the property inspector, before we start typing, let's go ahead and set the property. Under character, everybody look at my screen real quick. So I got the text tool under character right here. We're going to set the font family to Times New Roman. Times New Roman. Under size, I'm going to click and key 40. Hit enter. So next to size, it's 40. Use the color selection box and make it red. So go to this red right here on the side. Family, Times New Roman, size 40, color red. Everybody see the paragraph section right here? We're going to choose align left under format. Align left. We got the text tool set where we need it. Now make sure on the timeline, click in frame 75 in the Spanish layer. Make sure you got that frame selected. Because if you got like frame 1 selected, it's going to put it in frame 1. So make sure you got the keyframe, which is an instance right there in frame 75. So that's very important before we progress to the next step. Number 6 on page 139 says click on the left side of the stage. Right there, I'm going to click one time, and I'm going to key Spanish, capital S, P-A-N-I-S-H. Now, once you've typed Spanish, we're going to switch to the selection tool. V as in Victor gets the selection tool. Oh, now it thinks I'm trying to type V. I'm going to hold down Command, click away to deselect it, and then you can press V. Or you can just click on the selection tool, whatever's simpler. So we got Spanish at the left side of the stage. You got the selection tool, the black arrow. I want you to click on Spanish. Click on Spanish. So now it's highlighted with the blue box around it. That's its way of telling you got it selected now. Can anybody remember when we were doing the ball what it said the first step of creating an animation was?
Oh, making it a graphic.
Wrong word, but I think you know what I'm saying. You got to convert it to a symbol. Yes, and graphic is one of the selections and converting it to a symbol. Select Spanish, and then I want you to top menu up to the top. Everybody watch and listen. Modify, convert to symbol, or F8. So we're back to the convert to symbol, and we are going to name this text 1. T-E-X-T space 1. Try to spell everything exact. The type is graphic, registration's in the center, so you just click OK. So now it's just a blue box around it, imaginary blue box. Now if you remember, once you convert something to a symbol, it shows up in the library. So now we got ball and text 1. So we're on the bottom of page 139, number 8, and it says name it graphic. Number 9 says use the selection tool to select the text. So click on the black arrow, click on Spanish in case you hadn't got it selected. And we're going to go insert classic tween. Insert classic tween. So you may not notice anything at this point, but it's there. So we're going to turn the page to 140, and it says on the very top on number 10, on the Spanish layer, click in frame 90. So I'm going to slide this over a little bit. I'm going to click in frame 90 right up here. Everybody look at mine. So I click in frame 90 in the Spanish layer, and I'm going to insert a keyframe. How do you insert a keyframe? So press F6. Now that motion tween shows up that we just created, that little arrow that connects that instance of Spanish to the next keyframe, the next instance. So we're going to be making some changes to the text Spanish. Number 11 says we are to return to frame 75 in the Spanish layer. So click back on frame 75 and select the text. We're going to reduce the size of the text. What's the shortcut key to reduce the size of the text? Q. So press Q, and we're going to select the corner, and we are going to change Spanish to be smaller. I'm going to slide it further to the left of the stage. I'm going to press V as in Victor to get the selection tool again. Click on Spanish, and we're going to go to the Property Inspector under Color Effect, and we're going to change the brightness right here to 100%. So just like the ball, the text, it changes it to white. So it has 100% whiteness. So we're in frame 75. We just reduce the size of the text and change the brightness to 100%. So number 14 on page 140 says, use the selection tool and move the text to the position on the left half of the stage near the center. Just move it to the left near the center. Now in frame 90, we're going to go to that keyframe in frame 90. Use the selection tool, the black arrow, and position the text near the left half. Imagine there's a line going down the center of the stage, and put the H right next to where that imaginary line would be. So everybody look at mine. So move it right here in frame 90. We are done with this layer, so we're going to create another layer. So we're going to lock the Spanish layer. Click on the lock and lock the Spanish layer. So now we got Spanish and layer 1 locked. We are going to create a new layer. So we got Spanish layer and layer 1 locked. So we're going to go to the bottom and click the new layer button. And we are going to double click on the label for layer 3 and call this lesson. So put capital L, lowercase ESSON. So we got this third layer, lesson. We're on page 140, number 16 in the packet. Number 17, it says, in the lesson layer, we're going to click on frame 85. And we're going to insert a keyframe. So press F6. Make sure you're in the lesson layer and you just created an empty keyframe in frame 85. Sometimes you might create a keyframe accidentally somewhere else. Well, you can click and move keyframes. Click and move keyframes. So if you ever mess up, you just click and move them. So this keyframe should be in frame 85. Number 18, we're going to click on the text tool again. On the Property Inspector, before we make the next text, we're going to change something. Under Character, under the Properties panel, we're going to keep that Times New Roman. The size is going to stay at 40, but this time the color is going to be black. That's the one thing we're going to change. Using the text tool, we're going to click on the right side of the stage towards the right center here. Click one time, and we're going to type the word lesson, capital L, lowercase e, S-S-O-N, to the right of Spanish right here. So in frame 85, you type the word lesson, and it's supposed to be black, by the way. So once you type lesson, click on the selection tool, and you might need to adjust it. I would put it like to where it's kind of on the right side of the stage here. On the timeline, in the lesson layer, click in frame 85, and then click on the word lesson. For the third time, what's the first step in creating an animation? Convert it to a symbol. That's correct. So click on lesson, and we're going to go modify, convert to symbol. So we're on the top of page 141, and it says name the symbol text2. Text space 2. Make sure the type is graphic, the registration's in the center, and we're going to click OK. So now you check in your library. Now you got ball, text 1, text 2. So now we got 3 symbols. So 3 layers, 3 symbols, 3 animations. Number 22 on page 141. On the lesson layer, click in frame 85, where you got this keyframe here. Click in frame 85 on the lesson layer, and we're going to go Insert, Classic Tween. You see, there's like a ... There's no arrow. That's because there's no second instance of lesson yet. We haven't created another keyframe. Once we create another keyframe beyond, that arrow will show up for the motion tween. But right now it's looking for a place to go. So it's like ... The next step is we're going to click in frame 100 in the lesson layer. And that's where we're going to insert a keyframe. So press F6 after you click in frame 100. So now the motion tween knows where to go. You got a motion tween from 85 to 100. We're still on step 22, and it says click in frame 110. And we're going to press F5. You notice I didn't say F6, I said F5. F5 just creates a frame. So in frame 110, press F5. So you got a motion tween that doesn't know where to go anymore. From 100 to 110. Now notice, everybody stop and look. Spanish disappears at frame 110 because frame 90 on the Spanish layer, as shown in figure 4.20, the word Spanish ends at frame 90. So beyond that, it disappears. So you got the ball, it ends there. You got Spanish shows up, ends at frame 90, and then you got lesson all the way through 110. In order to keep Spanish on the stage with lesson, we need to go to the Spanish layer and unlock it. So let's go unlock Spanish. Click in frame 110 in the Spanish layer. Click in frame 110, and we're going to insert a frame. So press F5. All right, so now you got both layers. So as long as you got a frame, with frames, they're not going anywhere, but it's going to show what was in the last keyframe. Now we're going to talk about onion skin. Go down to the bottom of your timeline. At the bottom of your timeline, if you look at your tooltips, click on the one that says onion skin. Now, what onion skin does, it allows you to see what happened in previous keyframes. See this box up here? You can spread that out to see the animation from previous frames. It's got layers. This is going to help us align the Spanish and lesson animations. So click on the lesson layer in frame 85. So go to frame 85 in the lesson layer and click on the lesson text, and you just adjust it. Make sure it's like level with Spanish. And the brightness, under color effect, we're going to do what we did with the Spanish. We're going to change the brightness to 100%. Now, because we have onion skin, it may not look like it is, but it is. With frame 85 still selected, hold Shift and drag it to the far right. Now go back to frame 100 and hold shift and drag it to the left center of the stage right here next to Spanish. So now you can see how it animates. Now I'm going to move that down a little bit. I'm in frame 100. Now we got the onion skin and they're lined up. Now you can turn off onion skin after that. So go to like frame 70 and then click play. And they line up. We're going to create another layer and we're going to title it 1. So go to the bottom where it says new layer and click it. Double click on the layer title and we're going to call it 1. Capital O, then lowercase n-e. 1. So let's go ahead and lock lesson and Spanish layer back. Lock lesson and lock Spanish so we don't accidentally do anything to those. So lock those. In the new layer called 1, click in frame 101 and press F6 to create a keyframe. So we got an empty keyframe in 101. Now click on the text tool or press T and we're going to change the properties. It's Times New Roman and the size needs to be 95. So key 95, press enter, and we're going to make the text red. So size 95, text color red. Using the text tool, I'm going to click right next to the word lesson and I'm just going to key the number 1. Now I'm going to click on the selection tool or press V and I'm going to move it around and adjust it to be right next to lesson. For the 4th time, what's the first step in creating an animation? Converting to symbol. Make sure you got the 1 selected here and we're going to go modify, convert to symbol, and this is going to be called text 3. T-E-X-T space 3. Type is graphic, registration is in the center. Click OK. So go check in your library. Now we got ball, text 1, text 2, and text 3. On step 35 on page 142, use the selection tool to select the text, and we are going to insert a classic tween. So we're going to go insert classic tween. So now up here it looks like a lost motion tween right here. Number 36 says on the 1 layer, click in frame 110 and insert a keyframe. Click in frame 110 in this new layer and press F6. So we got a keyframe in frame 101, a motion tween, and then a keyframe in 110 in this new layer. Let's click back in frame 101 and select the 1 text, and in the property inspector we're going to change the color effect brightness to 100%. Click on the stage to apply it. Click in frame 110. I'm on step 38. Select the 1 text. Change the brightness to 40%. And then you click on the stage and it should change. Let's test the movie out. So I'm going to click play and it's going to start off with the ball. There you go. And that's the way it's supposed to look. Let's save this and next time we will continue where we left off. So file, save.
Thank you all for watching.
Hey class, if you like this video, please click like below and subscribe to this channel. Also, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.